Hello and welcome back to the Engage A podcast. I'm Josh with my co-host Mike. Today we are finishing our division previews with the AFC and NFC North previews. When we get back into the two podcasts a week next week, we're going to be doing a preview of all of the week one games before it starts on Thursday, and then I think it's almost a full weekend of football. And then we will, of course, after the games on Sunday, we will have a recap of all of those games. But we will finish our division previews today, starting with the AFC North and the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers added Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Dante Jackson, Patrick Queen, Cordero Patterson, Deshaun Elliott, added back Cam Sutton, who was not going to be playing for a long time and shouldn't be playing for longer. And then they drafted Troy Fatanu from Washington, Zach Frazier, and Roman Wilson. In the offseason, they did have a couple big losses in Johnson and Chukwuma Okafor, but Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph were both losses that they were okay with. Obviously, when you have Russell Wilson and Fields you bring in, you got to lose some quarterbacks, and both of those guys were the got the short end of the stick there in Pittsburgh. But huge QB decision entering the year. They're going to start with Russ. I think that's probably the play for now. I do see this Steelers team. I think they are better off if they make their identity just run the damn football every time. And I think you have a lot better chance to do that with a guy like Justin Fields. But at the same time, when you have the pass threat of Russ, when he is hot, that could definitely help them. And I think Russ is the better quarterback overall. So I understand why they're starting with him. The O line is very young, but has potential to be good. They drafted three O linemen in the first two rounds of their last two drafts, with Troy Fatanu, Zach Frazier, and Broderick Jones last season. Like I said, I think this team identity should be running the ball. After George Pickens, they do not have much. They have Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin at wide receiver 2 and 3, which if you're gonna try to run Justin Fields with that offense, it's gonna be quite tough to do. So they're gonna need Russ to figure out something and overperform with not great weapons. But they have great running backs. Their O line is solid. I think that is how they're going to have to manufacture wins is on the ground. Whether they do that or not, we don't know, but hopefully with Arthur Smith, they'll be able to. Secondary definitely improved this offseason. Queen is going to help with the coverage too. That was their biggest signing of the offseason, of course, with trading for Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. I think the defense is once again going to be an elite unit. They're pretty solid on the back end. They're better in the secondary this year than they were last year. They're going to be great up front every year. They just have so much talent up front. The thing for me is I just have a lot of questions offensively, how they're going to run their game, how they're going to survive with Van Jefferson as wide receiver two, how they're going to survive with a really young O-line who I think has potential, but they are very, very young. But I trust this defense a lot. I trust Mike Tomlin a lot. I think they're going to finish somewhere between 7 and 10 wins and overachieve as they continue to do every season.
I completely agree. I'm not really worried about this defense at all. They brought in some guys that I really like, and I think they're going to help them a lot. I think Patrick Queen could be great. Dante Jackson, they needed another cornerback with Joey Porter Jr. I think he could be very good for them. And I just trust Mike Tomlin to get this defense moving. Deshaun Elliott as well to go next to Minka Fitzpatrick. The safeties and the secondary, I'm not really worried about. Obviously, on the D line, you have one of the best players in the entire NFL defensively in TJ Watt. He'll get it done. And I think this defense is going to get it done overall. But I agree. I think this offense is going to be where they need to. They're going to have to win some games. I think if the defense will win them at least 6, 7 games, I just don't know how many wins this offense can produce. Mike Tomlin, he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. I don't doubt that they won't get below 500. We've seen it's been a long time since the Steelers have finished below 500. I think they'll get to that point, but this offense is going to have to win them a few games. They're going to have to run the ball, like you said, and it's can Russell Wilson kind of find out what he had in Seattle a couple years ago, or is he going to continue to play how he has in Denver the last couple of years and just continue to struggle? But if this team can bring in a guy like Brandon Ayuk, who they've been rumored to be talking to a lot recently in potential trades, this offense I think could be pretty solid. But it all comes down to the quarterback play. They got rid of Matt Canada, their offensive coordinator. They brought in Arthur Smith, who had a lot of hate last year with how he dealt with Bijan Robinson in Atlanta and some of the weapons there. But in his career, he's had some mediocre quarterbacks like Ryan Tannehill. He had him playing very good in Tennessee. In his first year in Atlanta, he had a very old Matt Ryan playing pretty well. and we saw him the next year go to the Colts and stink. So last year, he had Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke, two guys who are not very good. Maybe with a guy like Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, he can get them going, but so far in the preseason, neither have really looked very good. I don't know if they scored a touchdown at all in the preseason. I think that maybe that was just their first two games, but
I know they went
um,
0-3. I think it was them and one other team went 0-3.
yeah,
Might
but
have been the
they just
Chiefs.
couldn't get touchdowns. It might have been,
Yeah.
yeah. Roman Wilson, I like him as a draft pick for him as well out of Michigan. He was a solid receiver for him. I think he could just provide some depth, and then you would touch on the offensive line. It's not great, but it's getting younger. Zach Frazier, rookie out of West Virginia, I think he could be good. Batanu is dealing with a little bit of an injury. Roderick Jones, we saw him show some flashes last year, so they're looking towards the future on the offensive line. It's all gonna come down to the quarterback play if they can win them a game or two. Well, it's gonna have to win them a couple games, but can they overperform and finish better than people think and make the playoffs again?
Um, my thing with the Ayuk thing is it's been talked about for so fucking long now that I'm just kind of tired of it, and I'm not gonna just assume that they're gonna get Ayuk. If they do, I think this offense is actually completely changed. Even though I don't think one player ever completely changes an offense, they need another wide receiver so bad. They're in the situation that everybody tries to paint the Lions in, except for their wide receiver one is a question mark in my opinion. As good
I
as
wouldn't
people
put
want to
Pickens
hype
in
up George
question mark.
Pickens, is he enough to be the wide receiver one when there's nothing below him? Is he
I
good
mean,
enough
that's a
to
good
get doubled
question,
every
but I
play?
wouldn't call him a question mark.
I'm saying it's a question mark for me in his role. I think he's a really good
Yeah.
player. Can he be a wide receiver one in a completely empty room like a few guys in this league can? No. Like there's a few guys who could do that. CD could do it. Tyreek could do it. Amon Ra could do it. Jamar, like I mean, Jamar hasn't done it, but still, like I don't think he is that ability. I think Ayuk might have that ability. And if George Pickens can move down to wide receiver two and let Ayuk get most of the wide receiver one reps or just trade them off however you want to do it, I think that's huge for them. The problem is it's stalled so much. I'm at the point where there was a point where I thought he was going to go to Pittsburgh, and now I'm starting to think he's just going to stay in San Francisco. I think we're going to have a Debo situation all over again.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's gonna stay as well. But if he comes here, this will be huge. The way I view George Pickens is he's not as much of a consistent receiver. He's kind of just a guy who will have a big game every couple weeks. Kind of like how I don't want to say Tyler Lockett because he would have like one just massive game a year and kind of just be consistent.
Yeah,
But I think he's
he's
gonna have
not
a couple
Tyler
big
Lockett.
games and then a couple games where he doesn't get much done. But he's gonna have to with the people under him.
I'm trying to think of a good comparison for him. He's like a shittier T. Higgins, maybe.
I kind of would put him and T. Higgins on the same level. T.
Oh
Higgins
no,
in
I
his
think T.
first
Higgins is
year.
much better. I think T. Higgins is
I mean,
much
T.
better.
Higgins last year was not good.
I mean, there was obviously a lot of shit going on, and he
There,
didn't have his
what?
quarterback for a long time either.
I think I'm taking Pickens over T. Higgins.
Really,
I think I'm taking Pickens over T.
that's an
I
insane.
kind of have them on the same level, to be honest.
So you think George Pickens, when the time comes, he should get a huge deal based
I
off what
mean,
he's
right
done so
now,
far? If he was due for a contract today,
I
you
mean,
would sign him to a big
he
deal.
was a rookie last season. It's kind of hard to tell after just one season of playing as
Yeah,
a rookie.
I guess, but I don't know. I think he's really good too. I just him
I think
being
he's just got to get the consistency down.
yeah, because you have to be consistent to be a clear wide receiver one. You can't just be a.
And I guess he hasn't really had the chance to prove it. I think maybe this year he does and change his minds.
I just personally can't picture how he could be, and I have a lot of respect for Deontay Johnson. I have a lot of respect for him. I personally can't fathom how he could be solid in that system and not fantastic, and then go into one where he's easily the number one target for the secondary to focus on. I just can't imagine how he would be better than last year, and he wasn't amazing last year. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, I hear you. I think it's just getting better and getting older, getting more used to the NFL defenses. I think that'll help him
yeah, and he's gonna need to definitely
mature.
every issue. I don't even want to say mature because we don't know him as a person, so that kind of sounds crazy. But I don't know. I feel like he need everything that we've heard come out of the from the Steelers about him. Like he needs to be a leader. Like if he's just out there like fucking around, like doing like rookie shit, you're wide receiver one on a team that's very talented outside of your unit, really.
Yeah.
So like you kind of have to be the guy.
Maybe Scotty Miller steps up and becomes the guy though.
Is he on this team?
I see him on the depth chart.
Wow. He probably hasn't
Most,
got he hasn't gotten a snap since Brady retired, probably.
yeah. They also got Pat Fryermuth. He's a solid tight
Yeah,
end.
yeah,
That
yeah,
could
yeah,
bring some
yeah.
targets off of him.
Yeah. No, Moose definitely could. And
We,
like I said, if they run the ball like they should, they'll
hmm
be in a better spot.
Towards the
But
end of last year, they were
some
starting to run the ball more and it won them games.
something tells me that it seems like modern Steelers is just watching the Steelers and screaming run the ball at the TV, and they just refuse to do it.
Yeah, well,
They had a bad low line for a while too. But
Arthur Smith will be running the ball with who knows, Cordell Patterson all game maybe.
yeah. Oh wow, he's back with Cordell Patterson. Oh no. Oh, I have nausea. Oh no, I didn't even think about that. Oh
Yeah, Arthur Smith's gonna
no.
find his guys.
He's old though. Maybe Cordell
Maybe
Patterson.
Arthur Smith is the perfect guy to make Connor Hayward a tight end one.
It may be better than Byron, or maybe they'll move him to receiver.
Yeah,
He'll be wide receiver too.
up the receiving room a little bit. We did not mention maybe their biggest loss. I mean, you can say Pickett, Rudolph, Deontay Johnson, but they lost Presley Harvin,
Oh, do they
and that's
actually?
just yeah.
Is he not on a team?
I have no clue, but the loss of Presley Harvin just really.
Yeah, that's. I
He
mean,
better still be in the NFL because
that's
that'd be a
morale.
loss for the league. Oh, the 49ers just waived him. Mm,
Really,
damn, man.
and that
He's a
is
big point. He's my favorite punter to watch, man.
that hurt. How many punters did they lose this offseason? Oh yeah, right now it says he's not on a team. Damn, that's
So he's a
crazy.
unit, man.
Yeah, that blows for them. But regardless, we'll move on here to Baltimore Ravens. They didn't really do shit this offseason, to be honest. Their only notable free agent signing is Derrick Henry. Obviously, that's huge. I'll get into that a little later. They draft Nate Wiggins at the end of the first round, cornerback out of Clemson. I really, really love that pick for them. But I'm going to move on to the losses because there are a shit ton, and we knew this was going to happen in the season. We knew that once the offseason rolled around, they were going to lose a ton of guys. They couldn't afford to keep everybody. They lose Patrick Queen, Jadeveon Clowney, Geno Stone, John Simpson, Kevin Zeitler, Morgan Moses, Devin Duvernay, Ronald Darby, Gus Edwards, Odell Beckham Jr., J.K. Dobbins, and Rock Yassin. That is a shit ton of losses, but I think on paper it sounds a lot worse than it is when you look at this team as a whole. Most teams, when you lose that many starters, would be fucked. I don't think the Ravens are really necessarily in that position. They added basically just Derrick Henry and lost a ton of guys, but I think they are going to be fine. Henry's going to dominate if he can stay healthy. This is a great system for him to run in. Having a guy like Lamar to run any sort of read option with is going to be fantastic for them. The wide receiver room is still solid despite losing OBJ. They're still going to have a solid receiving room with Mark Andrews back healthy for the reigning MVP Lamar. O line, though, is a serious concern for me. They lost three starting O linemen in the offseason. John Simpson, Kevin Zeitler, Morgan Moses. You lose all three of those guys, you're going to be in a really bad spot. I also think that's a concern for Lamar, who really figured out how to stay poised in the pocket and pass well last year. That's not going to be there for him as much as it was last year, and I think that's definitely a concern. Secondary should still be solid. I think they'll be really good if Wiggins can end up being good. If they can hit on that pick, they're going to be in a pretty good spot with some of their young DBs, with some of their veterans. And I think the pass defense should continue to be great if he hits. And if he doesn't hit, I think they could be in trouble. But I wouldn't fully say if he doesn't hit, they're fucked. I don't think that's the case. I am worried about the rush defense being mid again, but once again, that's not the biggest concern. The way I just feel about this Baltimore team is I look up and down the roster, and last year I looked up and down the roster, and I'm like, fuck, where could I find a hole? And I look at that now, and outside of O line, I kind of still have the same standpoint of where is their hole. They don't have a true hole, but they have O line, run defense, secondary. That's all just to me. Like they have talent. They're not one of the worst units in the league by any means on those three units, but they all got worse, and it's hard to look at this roster and not tell me that they aren't worse top to bottom than they were last year. They just simply are. You lose that many guys, you are going to be worse. Regardless, I still think they might be the best team in this division. I'm not positive on that, but regardless, I don't think people should overreact to all the losses for Baltimore, but at the same time, I comparing this roster to last year is truly night and day for this team.
It definitely is just a ton of losses, like you mentioned. The ones that concern me, like you said, the offensive line. You lose three guys to that level. That's very scary. They also lost their defensive coordinator, Mike McDonald, and replaced him with their linebacker coach, Zachary Orr. So hopefully he knows the defense
Is
can
there a
keep him.
relation there?
No, 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 no.
There's not. Same team
No.
too.
Yeah. ORR.
Oh. Close.
Yeah. Uh,
Continue.
their run game offensively is going to be phenomenal with Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. When Keaton Mitchell's able to get healthy, then you have a speed guy in there as well in the running back room. So I'm very excited to see that. But yeah, like you said, offensively, I'm not really worried about except the O line. You still got Tyler Linderbaum, who's phenomenal, and Ronnie Staley, who's phenomenal. But outside of those two, you have three question marks, and that could really regress sort of this rushing offense and maybe this run game as a whole. I like the addition of Nelson Aguilar as well, bringing him in to go in with Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers. I think that could be a kind of good complement to those two, and hopefully the pass game can continue to succeed with how great Lamar was last year. And then defensively, you had a couple big losses, Geno Stone and Patrick Queen mainly. But I'm not really worried. You're able to so you still have Roquan Smith. You still have Kyle Hamilton. They got Marcus Williams back there. I think this defense is going to be fine. Hopefully, Zachary Orr can keep them how they were playing last year at that phenomenal level. But really, how I view this team is last year, you said it, they had really no holes, and they still found a way to kind of choke in the playoffs. I think it just comes down to Lamar Jackson being in the playoffs. They have had home field advantage twice in the last 5 seasons, and they've only been to the AFC Championship game once. They lost that game. Lamar's won 2 MVPs. He's won 75% of his starts through his first 6 seasons. But in the playoffs, he's just 2-4, and two of those games are at home. So they just have to find a way to win the games in the playoffs. Harbaugh has to get it done in the playoffs. Um, if another choke happens again this year, there's going to start being some more and more questions about Lamar and maybe Harbaugh. But it's a great team. They just got to go out there and get it done.
I mean, I don't think if they choke this year again, there should be any questions about Lamar and Harbaugh. I think those are
I
the
just
two things
mean
you can confirm are good.
I agree that they're both good, but they have to get it done in the playoffs.
I agree. It's also not easy when you're playing against what could be, I'm not saying it is, but what could go down as the greatest dynasty of all time if they continue to keep winning.
Saying the greatest dynasty is crazy,
I
but
said could. If they
it
go win
could
three
be.
more in a row, they're gonna be up there. Like
Yeah.
immediately. It won't even be close. But that's not a talk for today. I'm saying if they do, it's like, what are you supposed to do? If they keep losing to the Chiefs,
I mean, in those 2-4, you've lost to the Titans. You have a loss to the Chiefs. I'm trying to think of
yeah,
who
the
else they
Titans
lost
one.
to.
The Titans one is bad.
The Titans one was maybe the worst one because that
The
was
Titans one is bad.
trying to
Like
think.
I don't look at. Do you look at last year as a choke for them? I don't. I
I
don't.
kind
I
of do
don't
because
at
that
all.
was the best chance they had to go on. I mean, I do look at the Bills as a choke too. This was their best chance, and they choked against Mahomes.
Yeah, I don't know. If the Ravens would have lost to Houston, I would have been like, yeah, they should have been farther. But I mean, at the end of the day, like the Chiefs are a better team. Whether they had a better regular season or not, or whether they got an award that doesn't really matter or not, the Chiefs were just a better team. There's a reason. But the Chiefs were underdogs actually. I think going into that
Yeah,
game, but they shouldn't have been. And a lot of
I
people I think
mean,
made a lot of money on that. You know,
the Ravens had a lot of hype going into that game. I'm looking at the losses. It's Tennessee, Buffalo, Cincinnati, and Kansas City. So they've choked to the top 3 teams and
yeah,
Tennessee.
yeah. I mean, they lost. Did they lose to Cincinnati when Cincinnati went to the Super Bowl?
No,
When did they lose to
they lost to
Cincinnati?
Cincinnati in 22. So that would have been the Chiefs' first Super Bowl, and then they won back to back.
Really?
Yeah, because that Cincinnati went on to lose to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship.
22 would be the year, the Super Bowl that was played in
No,
2022.
well, no, the Super Bowl was played in the next year, but it's the 2022
Okay,
season.
okay, 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 okay. I was about to say because 2022, like the Super Bowl that was in February of 2022 was the Bengals
Yes,
and the Rams.
yes.
Okay, okay, I got confused with the wording there, but yeah, okay, yeah, I got you. Still, I mean, Bills, Bengals, Chiefs.
At one point, you
Those are
got
the
to
best
win them,
things.
though.
You do. No, I agree, and they're so dominant against the NFC that they just have to get
Yeah,
there. Like
if they get there, they'll take over.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm
They destroyed the 49ers team that was in the Super Bowl.
yeah, I mean that's true. And I mean, I look at and we're already rambling on the first two teams here, but I look at the last season of Lamar as so highly. We needed to see him do what he did last year for so long, despite whatever happened in the playoffs. The fact that he was willing to comfortably pass the ball and had receivers who could help him out, showed me a lot about Lamar. And at this point, I I'm not going to stand on this take, but I almost have more question marks about Josh Allen than I do about Lamar, to be honest. I think Josh Allen's better, but Josh Allen does more what the fuck was that shit than Lamar does, in my opinion. Like
I agree with
I feel
that,
like I don't
but
go ever with Lamar. With Josh Allen, that's like every other play.
with
His thoughts
Lamar,
are
it's more of the injuries, where with Josh Allen,
yes,
it's more of
yes,
the
decision
stupid
making.
plays.
Yeah, I I very very much
They
agree with
both
that.
have an egregious amount of positives to their game.
Right, they both have so much positives and one really bad negative. Their problem is they're going against a guy who doesn't have any negatives, so it's
Yeah,
pretty hard to beat that, especially when he has one of the best defenses, one of the best head coaches. Like, what the
and a
fuck are
good O line where I don't see the bank or the Ravens O line comparing to the Chiefs O line or the I don't see the Bills O line competing either.
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes winning the Super Bowl the way he did last year after his team leading the league in drops tells you everything you need to know about Patrick Mahomes. Any person that doesn't think Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the NFL is out of their fucking mind.
Yeah.
Truly, out of their mind.
Well, what is it? The NFL 100? Who they put at number one?
Tyreek. It was Tyreek.
Yeah,
Mahomes was
that's
like
clicks, man.
5, I think, or
Yeah,
something.
that's just ridiculous.
That is all for clicks, though. Like, they don't actually mean that. And that's not the player voted one either. Like,
Once I saw that, I felt completely fine just disregarding the rest of the top 100.
yeah, we didn't talk. We were talking about it up until then, and then I was like, okay, you're gonna put Mahomes at 4. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, whatever.
So,
The guy who was at 1 was on his team. He left, and he still kept winning Super Bowls. Like,
yeah,
how on earth could you put Tyreek over him? But
it's ridiculous.
moving on here to a guy that in the poll would not have voted Mahomes number 1, Jamar Chase and the Bengals. Ads for them: Sheldon Rankins, Geno Stone, Trent Brown, Mike Gesicki, Zach Moss, and they drafted Amarius Mims, a tackle from Georgia. They lost Jonah Williams, their tackle, Chidobe Awuzie, DJ Reader, Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, and Irv Smith Jr. They got to hold on to T. Higgins. They held on. They extended Chase, I believe, right? Did they extend him, or are they going to extend him?
Did
I don't know, but there's been so much shit that happened recently. We can mention briefly that CeeDee Lamb did get resigned. We were just early on that.
yes. I don't
Um,
think they did it yet, but I think he's gonna play. I think that's what
yeah,
it was.
maybe that's what it was.
Because
But
I
I
think
think he's all
they're
good.
calling it a hold in because he'll be
Hold
playing.
in is crazy. You're not holding shit then. You're just in.
Yeah.
Hold in does not. Everybody holds in. Everybody who plays is holding in. But yeah, they held on to Chase and Higgins at wide receiver 1 and 2. Very, very underwhelming running back room for this Bengals team and O line. They had the worst run game in football last season. That's gonna continue, I think. They didn't get better. Honestly, they got worse in both the running back room and the O line. Their front seven has a good amount of talent, definitely the strength of this defense. But I don't look at their front seven and I'm not like, whoa, this is insanely dominant. They're good. They're a good unit. They're probably top 10 in the league, but I don't look at there's honestly my problem with this team outside of receiver. I don't look at a single unit on this roster and I'm like, that's top 3. That's top 5. I don't. And honestly, I don't even know if I do with receiver after. I mean, I Chase and Higgins, I have both very high, but after them, it's nothing. But
Mm. I like some of their deep guys.
like, who do you?
Jermaine Burton, I think he's going to be very good for them.
I liked Boyd. I've always liked Boyd. I think Boyd is a very very underrated receiver. But
I think Jermaine Burton can come in and do the exact same thing that Boyd was doing, though.
I
Or even
don't disagree with that.
the Andrai dude, however you say his name,
Who I
Iosivas or whatever.
Where's he
He played a
from?
little bit last year.
He's
He's
on. What was that? I'm trying to, who was that one dude that was on the Bengals receiving? He was the receiver for the Bengals. He was like 6'5". People hyped him up for years, and he just never turned out to be anything. He was a constant waiver ad. I can't think of his name. Trying to buy time while you
he's
look
a
up
he's a
whatever
he's
you're
a
looking
wide
up.
receiver.
Yeah, he was like 6'5". He was probably on the team in like 2018. It's Tangent City here today, but God, what the fuck was that guy's
I just don't know what
name?
you're talking about.
It was like it wasn't like Mims or something. It was like I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. But regardless, Moving back onto the current team, not players who were wide receiver 5 in 2018. Anyways, the secondary is very thin and questionable in my opinion. I think as far as the strengths of this team, they're going to have to lean on their experience. They were in a Super Bowl just a few years ago. We just talked about that. They're going to have to rely on their pass game. They have two of the best receivers in the league, and they have Joe Burrow, who is absolutely fantastic, and he's going to continue to be good. He's a man on a mission right now. And they have a pretty good pass rush. Those are the three things that they need to lean on: experience, their passing game on offense, and their pass rush. If they lean on those three, and those three can be as elite as I think they're going to be, I think this is going to be a solid team. But I will say, I continue to look, and I know Joe Burrow got hurt last year, and that was a big reason why they weren't as good. But I continue year after year now since they made the Super Bowl. I look at the Bengals and I'm like, I just don't see it. Like they have a couple flashy players, but I just don't see how. Like I don't know about you. I don't. I look at this Bengals team and I just can't imagine how this team wins the Super Bowl. I just can't. I don't. I can't imagine how they beat the 49ers. Can't imagine how they beat the Chiefs. Can't imagine how they beat the Lions. Or the Ravens even. I don't think they beat in the playoffs. I don't know. I'm not high on the Bengals to be honest.
I just view this as
I
a,
want to be. I love Joe Burrow, but
I mean, if you would have told us in what 2021, 2022 that they would have made the Super Bowl, you would have just not believed in it.
yeah.
And I just think that's how this team is. I know you were kind of down on their running back room, but I'm not that high on Joe Mixon. I think that Zach Moss and Chase Brown could be able to kind of recreate what be a little bit better than Joe Mixon overall.
Joe Mixon was horrible last year. They had a
Yeah,
32nd ranked rushing offense.
yeah. I
32nd.
think Zach Moss can be pretty solid for this run game.
Tate, that was his name. My bad. I
Auden
didn't
Tate.
ask you. Auden Tate, yeah.
I looked
That
at that
was his
name. I
name.
didn't think that was it.
That was what I was talking about. He was like 6'5", right? He's on the Cardinals now. He just signed, I guess. Oh, never mind. That was January 10th, 2023. It
Yeah.
was his last news. But anyways, continue. Auden Tate, that was what I was thinking of.
Yeah. They have the two great receivers in Chase and Higgins, who should both play, although both have contract issues with the Bengals. Trey Hendrickson also had the contract issue, but he should also be in a hold-in position. Uh, Jermaine Burton, I touched on him. I think he could be very good for them as well as like a third receiver. And Joe Burrow, there was issues with his wrist and like the type of injury it was that people thought maybe he couldn't be as good. I'm not worried about Joe Burrow. I think he'll be able to be great, get the job done. I'm worried about the offensive line overall. They do have some issues. They drafted Amarius Mims to try to help it. Maybe he starts. I don't think he'll start at the start of the season, but I agree this offense is kind of underwhelming. I like the addition of Mike Gesicki. I think he could be another great weapon for Joe Burrow, but it's underwhelming. I think they'll get the job done and win a lot of games, though. And defensively, I love the addition of Geno Stone. I think that'll be very good. They lost DJ Reader, which was a kind of a big loss in that interior, but you're able to bring in Sheldon Rankings. You draft Chris Jenkins from Michigan and McKinley Jackson from Texas A&M. I think that interior defensive line will be okay to get the job done. Hopefully, Miles Murphy is able to take a second-year leap a little bit. I think he got injured. I think it was a knee injury in preseason, so hopefully he'll be ready to go and kind of be a third option to Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson. But I think this is a team that maybe they don't jump off of paper like you said, but they just find ways to win games. They're decently well coached with Zach Taylor. He doesn't get a lot of praise, but he's been able to. I mean, last year with Jake Browning, they were sniffing the playoffs without Joe Burrow. I think this year they'll make the playoffs pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, that was the conflicting thing in my head as they went so far without Joe Burrow. But I'm choosing to think that that was just a fluke, honestly. Like, I just can't. Well, I mean, what, in your opinion, where do you think that, like, I said the strengths were experience, pass rush, and pass offense. In your head, where are they significantly better than their peers?
I just think that pass offense with Joe Burrow is phenomenal. I think their run game will be better than it was last year with Zach Moss and Chase
I mean,
Brown.
it cannot be
That's what I'm
worse.
saying. It can't be
legitimately
worse.
can't be
I think
worse.
it'll be better. I think hopefully T. Higgins is healthier and can perform better. I think this pass offense is going to be good. I think defensively they got a little bit better. They struggled at safety last year. They're able to get Von Bell back and Geno Stone. I think those are two great safeties for them. And I think with the loss of DJ Reader hurts, but I think they were able to kind of recreate it with Sheldon Rankings and some of their draft picks.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the thing they have over a lot of these teams, including the Ravens, is making the full run. They might have lost at the end, but they made it all the way. They
Hmm.
know what it takes to make it all the way. And I mean, out of these top teams in the AFC, it's literally just them and the Chiefs that know what that feels like. Like
Yeah,
as far
I
as
like
like,
their linebacking core too. I think Davis Gacher, Pratt, and Wilson can be a solid trio.
I mean, yeah,
I think
Wilson's
they're just gonna find ways to win games like they've done recently.
yeah. I mean, and they are in a tough division too with a lot of other
And
teams.
if they find a way to win this division, I think Zach Taylor needs to start getting more praise
Zach with a C
because
at the end.
yeah, ZAC. He's assuming
Yeah.
the that's a loss that I don't think we touched on was Brian Callahan left. He's the head coach of Tennessee now.
Yep.
And Zach Taylor, I think, is assuming the offensive coordinator roles. So
Is he just assuming that or?
nah,
Yeah.
he's taking it.
Okay. Moving on here, finishing with our last team in the division, the Cleveland Browns. They added Jerry Jeudy, Jordan Hicks, Quentin Jefferson, Jameis Winston, Devin Bush, Naeem Hines, and Mike Hall, a D tackle they drafted. They lose Joe Flacco, Jordan Elliott, Sion Takitaki, Harrison Bryant, Mike Ford, and Marquise Hollywood Goodwin. Start calling him that. But once again, they should be dominant in the trenches on both sides. They have one of the best O lines. They have one of the best D lines, and I think this is my point with the whole Bengals thing. Is I can look at the Browns team and I can say they have probably a top five O line and they have probably a top five D line. That I can guarantee. I that's my whole problem with the Bengals, but we'll get back into that when we talk about standings. Regardless, I think they're going to be dominant in both the trenches. They didn't have a running game or their QB last year. I mean, they didn't have a running game because they didn't have their best running back or QB last year, and they still made the playoffs. They were facing a lot of the same hardships as the Bengals were facing, except for the fact that their team is better on paper and they performed better, that they were able to get over that hump that the Bengals can get over and make the playoffs despite all this bad shit happening to them. Say what you want. I think Joe Flacco and Browning were both great backups. I don't think the difference is they had Flacco. I mean, we saw in the end Flacco was their demise, but regardless, they were able to make the playoffs despite all that. I'm not high on Deshaun, but for the same reason why I'm so high on the Falcons, even though I'm not high on Kirk, is his situation is just perfect, man. It's just really hard. Like I just if he's not good this year, bro, I don't know what it is. Like I mean it probably is him anyways, but it's definitely him if he's not good this year. One of the best pass defenses last year. They were ranked 2 in passing yards given up per game. They should remain up there. I think they'll still be 1 or 2 with the Jets. Their D line of Garrett, Tomlinson, Harris, and Smith is just going to be dominant. One of, if not the best unit in the league. Their only semi weakness, which is funny because it's exactly like the Falcons, their only semi weakness is their linebacking core isn't fantastic. They lose Taki, of course. Very, like I said, very similar team to the Falcons. The difference for me, though, I trust Kirk Cousins a lot more than I trust Deshaun Watson at this point, which is why I'm higher on the Falcons than I would be on the Browns. But the Browns' supporting cast is might be better. I mean, I know it's pointless to compare two teams who have nothing to do with each other, but I just think they have a similarity in the fact that they have a quarterback who can be good and is in a perfect situation. I'm not as confident that Deshaun is going to be as good as Kirk's going to be this year, but if Deshaun goes out there and has an amazing season, I'm not going to be shocked at all. He's in the perfect situation to have an amazing season.
I hear your take with the Falcons and Browns comparison. I think I agree with the quarterback position, but my big difference between the two teams would be that the Falcons division is just so much easier.
Oh,
They're gonna eat up 6 wins in that division,
that's the night
hopefully.
and day. Yeah.
And with the Browns, you got to go up against the
Mm-hmm.
six tough games that they're gonna have to play. I agree. I think Deshaun Watson last year he was not very good. He's the one quarterback that Stefanski really hasn't been able to make look great. He's counts for 63.97 million against the cap for the next 3 seasons, so they pretty much have to ride out with him. They had a quiet offseason. They didn't make too many moves, but that's basically because of the cap restrictions that Deshaun Watson, Denzel Ward, and Myles Garrett put on the team. 3 guys that you're paying a lot of money. They had a ton of injuries last year. You can't expect to have that many injuries this year. They still finished 11-6, coach of the year, defensive player of the year, comeback player of the year, and they still lost in the first round of the playoffs. So it shows they had the awards, but they still need to stay healthy. I love this defense, just like I love their offensive line. I think their offensive line is another top three, easily top five unit. They're pretty much the same as last year, not too many changes, if even a change. On defense, you have the DPOY with Myles Garrett. You still got Zadarius Smith. We saw that duo was great last year. In the secondary, you got some guys like Denzel Ward, who's phenomenal. Thornhill's been good. Not worried about the defense at all. Not worried about the O line at all. In Njoku, we saw him have a career year basically last year. He was phenomenal. Hopefully, Deshaun Watson can continue that for him. You still have you have a great weapon with Amari Cooper. You bring in Jerry Jeudy. Hopefully, he can kind of fix his career a little bit and get back on a good path. But like you said, it all comes down to the quarterback position. Deshaun Watson is going to have to be key for this team. I don't know when they expect Nick Chubb to be back. I think he was on the PUP list, so he'll miss at least the first 4 weeks. Who knows how long? And hopefully, when he comes back, he's able to play as well as he was. That's an injury that it was rough to watch. He's gone through bad knee injuries before, so how many knee injuries can you go through? They're probably going to have to start out with Jerome Ford at running back, but overall, they didn't have to do too much in the offseason. They're a pretty similar team. I like some of the moves they made. They brought in Jameis Winston, so hopefully it seems like either him or Huntley is going to get traded. Hopefully for them, Jameis can stay and bring some flair to the team.
All right, moving on here to Jesus. Standing predictions. Before I get into this, you're looking at all four depth charts between these four teams. I personally think it is very obvious who has the best roster, but I want to know what you think.
I think the Browns might have the best roster,
It's
but I think the
clearly the
quarterback
Browns.
position is the most important, and
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they're
third
going to
in
get
it.
the most wins in this division. I do have them at 2. I have the Ravens once again finishing first and winning the division. Although, like I said, I do think the Browns have the best roster easily on paper. I got the Browns 2. I got the Bengals 3, and I got the Steelers 4. Like I said, we were talking before this. We said it's very easily the best 3 divisions in this league. In no order are the AFC South, and then both the divisions that we're doing today. This is going to be an extremely tough division. I think the Steelers are still going to be a pretty solid team. I think they have a pretty solid roster. I just don't think they can stack up to the Ravens and the Browns and even the Bengals.
Completely agree. I have. First of all, I think this is the best division in football overall. I don't think it's really close. I think you'd agree with that. I have the Ravens at 1. I have the Bengals at 2, Browns at 3, Steelers at 4. I think all four of these teams again finish above 500. Steelers 9-8 or 10-7 maybe. Probably 9-8 if they're in fourth.
Four teams being 10-7
Yeah,
plus with
that
is
would.
almost impossible. I feel like.
I'd say that'd have to be impossible, but
Yeah.
I just trust the quarterback position for the Bengals more than I do with the Browns. The Browns could win the division if Deshaun Watson can perform like he used to in Houston at all, but I haven't really seen that from him. He seems to, I, yeah, I trust Joe Burrow way more than I trust Deshaun Watson. I think Joe Burrow will lead his team to wins. I think Deshaun Watson will hold his team back from some wins. So Ravens, Bengals, Browns, Steelers.
Alrighty. Moving on here to the awards for this division. I want to say it. I, of course, changed my rookie of the year on both sides because there's new rookies from last year. I kept my OPOY, DPOY, and MVP from last year. So if anybody or you remembers what I picked for those, I highly doubt that. But if you do, it's going to be the exact same as last year. Um, and it's just because everything stands true, honestly. But offensive rookie of the year, I have Troy Fautanu from Washington, the tackle who is now on the Steelers. I honestly think this young Steelers line is going to be pretty damn good, and I think he's going to be at the helm of it.
I have Jermaine Burton. I had touched on him with the Bengals. He's kind of the third string wide receiver. I think he could have a big season with Joe Burrow. Yeah, they lost Tyler Boyd, so that hole there might be open. If he can assume that hole and take over, I think he could be very good for them. Pause.
All right, DROY. Not a ton of options here. So I decided to just go with Nate Wiggins. And I honestly don't even know if I believe this, but there just weren't many options here, and I think he has the potential to be pretty good. And I'd rather say Nate Wiggins, who I know can be good, over just saying a guy that was drafted late, unless I'm missing somebody who was drafted high on defense in this division. But I think he was the highest defensive player drafted. and he went like 29, I think.
Yeah, I think pretty easily. Nate Wiggins, I think they're going to have to use him a lot. I think he was really good for them in the preseason. So I think there really wasn't too many defensive guys in this one. For some reason, I don't even see him on their depth chart, but I know. Oh, there he
He's
is.
there. He's there. He's there.
Yeah, they have him like the third, but I think he's going to start pretty quickly, if not
I
right
agree.
away,
I agree.
and be very good for them.
OPOY, I've got Lamar. I I think if it was common for a defensive player to win MVP, might have been Myles Garrett. But at the end of the day, I think Lamar is the best offensive player in this division. I like I said earlier when I was praising him, I'm not going to continue to sit here and suck him, but I was impressed by what he showed us last season and his ability to stay calm in the pocket and be able to be a pocket passer as well as using his athleticism that he has that nobody else can have over him. So I think Lamar's going to have another great year and another solid system, albeit not as good as last year. As a team, I think Lamar will still have a great year.
Yeah, the top three here for OPOY, DPOY, and MVP have some of the best players on each side of the football, but I went with Lamar Jackson as well at OPOY. He won MVP last season. I don't think he has to do too much to win this team games this year. I think he's going to continue his great play from last year, stay in the pocket more. He still has good weapons. I think he's just going to have another phenomenal season.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was nothing against Lamar. It just came down to I didn't want to leave both of the edge rushers out. I didn't want to leave one of the two edge rushers out, to be honest. But I went with TJ Watt at DPOY.
Wow.
I think I want to rack my brain before I say this. Yeah, I think no matter what anybody says and disrespect that TJ Watt continues to get him and the guy I have at MVP are the two best edge rushers in the league. They're better. They're both better than Micah Parsons, in my opinion. They're both better than Nick Bosa. They're both better than Hutchinson. I mean, I'm probably forgetting a name in there, but regardless, they are the two best at their position, and I couldn't leave them both out, so I had to go with Lamar at OPOY and not put Lamar at MVP. But I took TJ Watt at DPOY. He is slightly, in my opinion, under Myles Garrett, but it's close.
I have him above Myles Garrett, but I do have TJ Watt at my DPOY. I think he's the best edge rusher in football. I think he's going to have to be great for the Steelers defense to win games. And even though I have him finishing fourth, I think he's going to contend for Defensive Player of the Year. And I think he gets his revenge and wins it this year.
Am I completely blanking on?
No.
If you went
No,
Joe
you're fine.
Burrow, I swear to fucking God. But Myles Garrett, I have it MVP. I think he might be the best player in football outside of Mahomes. I mean, there's nothing else to say. He's dominant. There's not a single person that could block him. You can double team him if you want. It doesn't matter. I think he's going to go down as an all-time great. He's very well. I don't want to say easily because I do have a lot of respect for TJ Watt, but I wasn't considering Lamar over him for MVP at any point.
Yeah, I went with Joe Burrow as MVP. I think he's going to have a revenge season. I think this team, well, if I predicted this team to finish second, and I think for this team to finish second, he's going to have to be phenomenal and play at an MVP like level, and I think he will, and win MVP of this division. Had to get some different ones in there.
We once again disagree on the Bengals. Last year we kind of had a wash because Joe Burrow didn't play and they ended up just being mid. But we once again disagree on the Bengals going into the year.
I wanted to think
I
of
fucking love Joe Burrow too. Like I truly love Joe Burrow.
He's
Can't put him over
great.
Myles Garrett though.
I was looking at Myles Garrett. Random question here out of nowhere. Do you think Myles Garrett's a Hall of Famer already? I think so.
How many DPOYs too?
Does he have two DPOYs? I'm just looking at his stats. I mean,
I do not have his stats or his awards in front of me, but off the top of my head, I'd say yeah.
oh, here, this should show awards. 3-time All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowl. It doesn't show DPOY, does it?
One of the stats in there should be how many years he played in the NFL when Aaron Donald was also in the league.
That was his first DPOY. Yeah, that should also be a stat.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like
I didn't even think of that.
Like if he played with LT in the same time, I think we would give him a little bit of a slack. But
3-time All-Pro first teams.
He very well could go on a run.
Oh yeah, it's going to be him versus TJ Watt here for a while.
It will be, but when I see D-line, Max Crosby is who I was forgetting.
Oh yeah, and throw in Laiatu Latu here in a couple years. It maybe not next year.
When I see like on social media people's edge rankings and anybody that has TJ Watt at like 4 or 5, because there are a lot. I mean, is it just that Micah Parsons plays in Dallas? Is it just that he's like a
Has to be.
flashy player? He's number 11. People aren't used to seeing that from an edge rusher. Is that what it is? Like, and I love Micah Parsons.
I think it's just Dallas.
That was Micah Parsons might be my greatest take of all time, but I still think TJ Watt's better than him.
Yeah.
I still do. I'm gonna go to the grave with that right
I think the
now.
top four is just a solid. I don't think there's anyone in there.
Who's the fourth?
Crosby.
Yeah, yeah,
I think Crosby's almost underrated at this point.
I agree. The only problem for him is there is a ceiling, and at
Yeah.
this point, he just honestly, I would be fine with Crosby at 3 over Parsons. Honestly,
I would be too completely.
I'd be
I'd
fine
almost
with
put
that.
him there.
Yeah, I think I probably would too. And now Crosby is, I mean, every one of these guys. Garrett has had Zadarius Smith. He's only had him 1 year, but he's had him now. TJ Watt has had Highsmith. He's been a very, very underrated player, especially in the sack game.
And Cam Hayward.
And Cam Hayward. Parsons has been on the Cowboys, and they've had a great D line. Who the fuck has Max Crosby had until
Yeah.
now? Now he has Wilkins, who's not even an edge rusher, but still.
He had Chandler Jones at a rough position in
Yes.
Chandler Jones's life.
Yes, he had Chandler Jones when Chandler Jones went fucking insane. I mean, got to give Max Crosby some love, but I feel like we might have had this exact same rant on our AFC West preview. So
he has Christian Wilkins now, which could be good for him.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, except for the fact that he's not even an edge rusher. He's going to be on the
Yeah.
interior. He's still going to help him a lot, but
He had Clellan Farrell. That was a great help for him.
I mean, he's been all alone. When he comes to Detroit, he won't be alone. But moving on here. Hey, he's from Michigan.
Oh, I know. That'd be scary.
That would be electric, man. Gonna have to move Hutch up there in that top 4 too. Then I both of them in there.
Not just sniffing those top 4. I'm sorry.
I mean, technically he is. You can't put him lower than like 6 or 7.
But I don't. I mean, he might be 6 or 7, but he doesn't sniff that top 4.
No, I agree. I don't think he's close to the top 4 either. But just numbers wise, technically he is. If he's 6th in their top 4,
Okay.
but regardless, I'm gonna fight for my boy. Let's move on here to the North. We'll be talking about him here soon. We'll start with the Minnesota Vikings. They added Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Sam Darnold, Blake Cashman, Stephon Gilmore, Aaron Jones, Shaquille Griffin, and they drafted in the first round J.J. McCarthy and Dallas Turner. They lost, of course. Excuse me. They lost Kirk Cousins, Daniil Hunter, Marcus Davenport, DJ Wonnum, KJ Osborne, Jordan Hicks, Andrew Booth Jr. They're going to have.
Wow.
What's up?
I guess we could talk about them in a minute, but did you see Schefter's tweet? Lions bringing in a receiver.
Know who they're bringing in? I don't even have my phone on.
Tim Patrick.
Really? Oh,
Lions are bringing Tim Patrick to the practice squad
Hey,
with the idea that he will work into the active roster.
Hey, that's a big target, isn't it?
It's a nice signing for him. Yeah, it's a nice signing for the Lions there.
We needed it. We should have got who was the receiver that got cut today?
Tim Patrick.
There was somebody.
Tony got cut. Kadarius Toney did.
Yeah, he got cut. Somebody else got cut. Was it somebody on the? Maybe I'm thinking of Allen Robinson. It all comes back to Allen Robinson. But and I guess now that I think about it, I don't even think I listed Allen Robinson on my losses with the Steelers, but
no.
they did lose him too. Anyways,
that's what you would like to say. Addition by subtraction.
Yeah. And I think I have a couple of those coming up soon. Looking at you, CJ Gardner-Johnson. Anyways, moving on here. Solid receiving core and RB room for Darnold when he inevitably does have to play with McCarthy out for the year. Average O-line, I think they might be a tad bit overrated, but they're definitely not a bad O-line. Losing both edges is definitely going to hurt the pass rush, obviously. And they had a great run defense last year. I think both those guys not being there is definitely going to affect that. Brian Flores' defense will take a hit with significantly less talent. But my thought process here, I know people like last minute before the preseason was starting, the takes were starting to ramp up. Jefferson got paid. Addison, I guess, didn't drive over 100 miles an hour for a week or something. Congrats to him. They were getting a lot of hype. And then McCarthy goes down. The hype's kind of gone. To be honest, I wasn't high on them then. And without McCarthy, I'm not any lower on them than I already was. In fact, I honestly think they might be better with Darnold. But regardless, I'm not high on McCarthy. I'm not high on Darnold. I'm not high on this entire roster. Honestly, I look at this roster. Let me pull up the depth chart so I don't misspeak here and slander them. Actually, no, I'm not even gonna do that. I look at Jefferson, I look at Brian Flores, and that's about it. That's what I'm taking from this team. Aaron Jones is good. Addison, I think, is overrated. If JMO never got suspended, the hype he gets would have went to JMO. Um, who else am I forgetting on this roster that is actually like really good?
Darisaw.
Darisaw,
They
yeah.
have a solid O line. That's
Darisaw is
what they
the
got going for them.
Darisaw is the reason that people hype this whole lineup, though. Let's be real.
I
Let's
think
be
Brian
real.
O'Neill's solid. I think Garrett Bradbury's good.
Yeah, I guess I honestly would have them around like the middle of the league, like 14, 13, 14, 15, which is
That's what I'm.
solid
Yeah.
and would have been a very big thing for McCarthy as a rookie. Sam Darnold is like whatever, bro. He just came out of an unrealistic paradise in a where was it? Did he play in a team in between San Fran? Was he on a
Carolina. You went from New York to Carolina to San
then to San
Fran.
Fran and then to Minnesota, right? He didn't play any.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came from a candy land. It's not. I know he didn't get to play until the end of the year last year. This isn't going to be how it is in every player's good world in San Francisco. So, I think they're going to struggle. I have no hopes for this team, and I didn't even when McCarthy was healthy.
I think this team could be better than what you're putting out there.
I
Their
think they're holding
draft,
back the division.
they are. Their draft for what they needed at the time, I thought was pretty good. They needed a quarterback. You get JJ McCarthy. I'm not a JJ McCarthy fan, but
Come on, man. You
whatever
don't think
position you
that
need.
you don't think
I'm
drafting
not a
him
JJ
that high
McCarthy.
was worth it though.
I don't think it was, but I think they needed They needed a quarterback, so they did what they kind of had to do. I think they should have went for Penix, but they went with McCarthy. I love Dallas Turner draft.
They couldn't have gone for Penix. He already got taken.
I know that's what I mean. I think they would have been better off with Penix, and then he got taken in front of them, so they had to
Oh,
take
I mean, yeah,
McCarthy.
I agree with that. I mean, they weren't going to be good this year with any of those guys anyway. So, like, why force it?
I don't know. I think they could have been good with Penix.
I understand the Penix pick more than I understand the JJ McCarthy pick or the Bo Nix pick. Genuinely, I think the Michael Penix pick has direction. JJ McCarthy didn't fucking pass the ball in college.
No, I agree
He didn't
completely. I'm
pass the
not a JJ
ball.
McCarthy fan at all.
And
But
even in the game where he played, or no, that was Bo Nix that had like 85 dump offs. But still, like,
oh well, Bo Nix is a under five merchant.
I believe more in Bo Nix than JJ McCarthy. I'll say it.
I'm not against that because we know I'm a JJ McCarthy hater. I'm trying to hold
Yeah,
back.
you're kind of hyping him up a little bit right now. And I
No,
don't
I'm
know
not
if
trying to
I.
hype him up. I think he's in a good position where he is able to learn maybe. Well, he's able to learn NFL defenses. It's kind of a situation that we've seen. I mean, Patrick Mahomes was in. He didn't play his rookie season. We saw it last year. Anthony Richardson got hurt and was able to watch. We'll see how that works out for him this year. Well, they drafted Will Riker, the kicker from Bama. That could be very good for them. They lost Greg the Leg Joseph. Um, they lost Daniil Hunter, their best defensive player as well. But like I said, they drafted Dallas Turner. They bring in Jonathan Grenard. I think that could be a great replacement for him, where I don't think it's as big of a loss. I might be crazy, but I think they might have got a little bit better with that move. I'm not the biggest Daniil Hunter fan right now at this point. But defensively, it's going to be a lot on Brian Flores to just get this defense going like he did last year. A lot of losses. Their interior defensive line is not very good at all. I think 4 losses is going to be right there to the Bears and the Lions with some great run games, and even Josh Jacobs with the Packers. That could just be 6 losses for the Vikings in the division.
They'll get
Um,
one. I think they'll go 1-5.
yeah,
They'll
they're going to be
steal.
missing.
They'll steal one from the Bears or Packers.
We'll have to see. They obviously have the receiving duo of Jefferson and Addison. Shout out Jalen Naylor there at wide receiver 3. I'm happy for him. But
Hey, maybe Jalen Johnson can guard them both. Maybe that'll work. That's what Bears fans seem to think will work. But regardless, you can continue.
seems like I'm excited to hear what you have to say about the Bears. They won't have Hawkinson for early in the season coming off the ACL tear, so that's going to hurt. But it's all going to come if Sam Darnold can perform or not. I think he's just going to play a little below average. They were okay at times with Josh Dobbs last year. I honestly just feel bad for KOC because he seems to be a pretty decent coach, just has yet to have a quarterback to really get going and be consistent. The one season he did have it.
What
The
about
one
Kirk?
season,
What
the
about
one
Kirk? I
season,
thought
the
he was
one
great.
quarterback he's had that he's been able to be consistent with. I should say, I guess, like the last
What, they
15
were
weeks.
consistent 4-4 or what? What was it?
They were getting hot though, man. Kirk was getting hot the year before
Wrong.
that. They were on
4-4.
fire. They were on fire the year before.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Kirk Cousins is great. I'm not going to disrespect Kirk Cousins. That's the one quarterback KOC's really had, and he's been very good with. After that, he's had to deal with Josh Dobbs, Nick Mullins, Jaron Hall, and now Sam Darnold.
If Josh Dobbs would have blown his knee out after those first 2 games, would we be sucking him like we are Kirk Cousins?
But Kirk Cousins had a whole year before that where he looked phenomenal too.
And they were very successful when they lost to Daniel Jones in the first round of the fucking playoffs.
That honestly might be one of the biggest flukes to happen in NFL history. The fact that happened is just insane.
I'm sorry. I understand Kirk Cousins is a little bit flashy. He makes a lot of money. He's a coolish guy, I guess. And he's a decent quarterback who can air it out. So I understand why people like him. The last 9 games we've seen from Kirk Cousins, he lost to Daniel Jones in the playoffs, went 4-4 the next year, tore his Achilles as a mid-30s man. You have to understand my doubt. And
they had a bad game against the Giants, and they had a rough start to the season. They were getting hot. They were looking like they did the year prior before the Daniel Jones collapse. That playoffs was that the playoffs with
what about the year? I mean, if we're gonna talk about flukes,
there was just random shit happening in that playoffs.
If we're gonna talk about flukes, though, I mean, they had a fluke season. They won every game by fucking 2 points. Like, we saw when that didn't go their way, the next time it didn't work.
I mean, last season they also had to deal with having virtually no running game. They lost Dalvin Cook, tried to have Alexander Madison replace him, and that didn't work. So now they're going to try to bring in Aaron Jones and hopefully fix that for them. But I don't think that's really going to fix much. He's getting older too. But they had to adjust to no run game. And yeah.
You're saying after Kirk or with Kirk?
Well, like last year with Kirk, when they were 4-4, they started the season slow. Didn't really have a run game. And then started to figure it out, win some games, and then Kirk blows out his Achilles.
Would we? Let me offer a hypothetical. Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns start 1-4. He gets hot. They move up to 4-4. He blows his knee out. We're not looking at Deshaun next year as, oh, this guy's going to be special. We're just not.
It's different though because
it's
if
Deshaun about Kirk that people like, I don't know what it is.
But the year before that, he looked great too, is what I'm saying. And then he had a slow start and got hot. If Deshaun Watson looked great last year, started 1-4 this year, and got back to 4-4, I'd still believe in him. But the fact that he was so rough last year and then with another knee injury, I wouldn't believe in him at all. No.
I mean, personally, and I've said it a million times, I just have to be the voice of reason with the way that you and Zach just adore Kirk. I have to be the voice of reason here. So it comes off as I'm not a Kirk guy. I said it last week, or did we do South last week? We did, right?
Yes.
I said it last week. I think he's a top half of the league quarterback. But we've just.
I agree with that. I don't put him higher than like 10 or 9.
Oh, I don't think put him anywhere near 10 or 9. I don't put him anywhere near 10.
Well, you said top half. That'd be 16.
And that's what I'm saying. I have him probably at 16. We did a top 10, and none of us even considered mentioning him.
No, I think I had him at like 4. I might still have that. I think I had him at like 13 or 14.
I don't know where I had him, but I definitely didn't have him over some of the guys who. I mean, if we're gonna look at
like Trevor Lawrence or Kirk Cousins,
I'm gonna take the guy who didn't choke to Daniel Jones. I'm gonna take the guy who had the opposite effect. We've seen them both in their last playoff games. One of them came back from down 30. One of them lost to Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I have my 11 through 12, 13. I had him at 14.
But behind who? Or in front of who?
I had him. I didn't have anyone behind me. Was the last one I listed. But I have him ahead of Trevor Lawrence. I didn't even list Trevor Lawrence. I had Kyler at 11. Jalen Hurts. Oh wait, no. I had Kyler at 11. Aaron Rodgers, Tua, Kirk. And I'd almost put Kirk above Tua now that I look at that.
I mean, I view those two, I view it the same.
Yeah.
If anybody in the world tries to tell me that they view Kirk Cousins higher than Aaron Rodgers going into this season, I'd lose my fucking mind. Because let's talk about what we've seen pre-injury. We had a great 3-game stretch. Aaron Rodgers went back-to-back MVPs. Why the fuck are people looking at Kirk like he's a god and not looking at?
Well, he had the year after the 2 MVPs where he struggled.
That was fine. Did you see that team, bro? That was one of the worst.
Rough.
That team was really bad.
26 to 12 touchdown interception ratio for Rodgers. That was rough. He hadn't had over 10 interceptions since 2010. 26 to 12.
What did he do the prior 2 years?
37-4 and
Back-to-back
48-5.
MVPs.
48-5, which looking back at
48-5
that
is
is
fucking
fucking
ridiculous.
That was 2020 though.
You could let Kirk relive his 25th year of life a million times. He would never go 48-5 ever. But that brings us into the Packers here. How about that?
48-5 is
That's fucking ridiculous.
absurd.
The 48 is impressive, but the 5 is really the crazy part.
I mean, the year before that it was 26-4. So that was his first year, I think, with LaFleur, doubling up the touchdowns.
Yeah. His LaFleur is 26-5. But moving on here to the Packers and Matt LaFleur. They added Xavier McKinney, Josh Jacobs, Greg Joseph, the kicker, and they drafted Jordan Morgan, the guard from Arizona in the first round. They lose David Bakhtiari, John Runyon, Darnell Savage, Aaron Jones, Yusu Nijman, and Devondre Campbell. The weapons are great for Jordan Love. Once again, they were great last year, and he looked great last year. Despite how critical I've been of Kirk, I think I've been fairly positive of Jordan Love, and I definitely hate the Packers more than I hate the Vikings. But regardless, I don't think this O-line is going to be good at all. I don't think they're going to be like so bad where it's like he's going to be like record sacked. I think they definitely have the worst O-line in this division. I think you have the Lions, who no question have the best. I think you have the Bears, who are like right outside of the top. I don't know. I think I have the Bears and the Vikings right around like 15, 16. I think I have the Packers at like 18-20, like somewhere in there. I don't think they're horrible, but I definitely
think I have the Packers and the Bears are like the exact same almost.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of do too. I think that I misspoke. The Vikings definitely have a better O-line than the Packers and the Bears. I'll say that. They definitely have a better O-line than the Packers and the Bears. But I don't think we're not talking about the Bears. I'll get to those motherfuckers in a second.
I'm
itching. I see it down there and I'm itching. But regardless, I'm taking it out on Kirk. You know what? That's on me. I'm taking out my anger on Kirk, but at least Zach's not here, so I can just freely, with no rebuttal, talk shit. But anyways, as he continues to play games, I think Jordan Love's just going to continue to improve. But I think he's going to have an underwhelming season just based on his contract. I think he's going to have something very similar to last year, which is good and is better than a lot of quarterbacks. But I don't think we're going to see this like insane jump from him in year two. Year two. I don't think we're going to see this insane jump from him. They had a bad run defense last year. They've had a bad run defense for what feels like a decade now. It's been a weakness for a really long time for them. I think that's going to continue to be a weakness. McKinney is a great addition to this secondary. I love that pickup for them. I think he's going to make an instant impact. Pass rush and secondary, I think, should be solid options. Regardless, or not options, but solid regardless of a super bad run defense. I think they're going to give up a shit ton of rushing yards, but I think their pass rush and their secondary is going to limit other teams' passing games a lot, which in turn is going to force more teams to run the shit out of the ball against them, and they can game plan for that a little more because I don't think their pass rush and secondary will be weaknesses. This is just, once again, a very young team. They are getting older. I don't want to say they hit their ceiling last year, but as far as this current roster, I see their ceiling is making the playoffs and winning a game. I don't see this as a team who's like a dangerous threat to like go to the conference title game or make the Super Bowl. But I think they're going to be good.
I don't know. We thought this team wasn't even going to sniff the playoffs last year, and they ended up being way better than we could have thought. Jordan Love, I didn't hate on him last year. I remember Zach saying he's going to be terrible and Justin Fields was going to be great.
That was a great first couple weeks of the year when we got to run that. That was just fantastic.
Jordan Love has proven to be way better. He got paid 4 years, $220 million. He's going to have to continue to show that he's worth that. They traded for Malik Willis, which I really like for them just to have a solid backup. In terms of their offense as a whole, I love it adding Josh Jacobs and Marshawn Lloyd with A.J. Dillon being hurt. I think this could be a great running game now. Aaron Jones was great when he was on the field last year, and I think Josh Jacobs is a way better running back than Aaron Jones. So I think he's going to kind of feast in this offense with the receivers who they aren't the top of the end talent, but they have a lot of receivers that are just very solid. Watson, Dobbs, Reed. I think Dontavion Wicks is going to be great this year, and even Bo Melton. That's a just pretty solid all around. If they get the job done, they're going to look good. And if Jordan Love can continue to play how he was at the end of last year, this team could be very good, and I think they will be better than last year. Luke Musgrave's a solid tight end. I think their O-line was a little bit better than you're giving credit for. I have him right there with the Bears, and I'd almost give him a little bit of the edge. I like the draft of Jordan Morgan. He can play tackle or guard, and it seems like they're going to put him at guard. And defensively, they have their issues. Their linebacking core isn't great. They drafted Edgerrin Cooper. I think he could step in and be solid for him with Quay Walker having his on the field, off the field issues. Um,
Pushing
their second,
players,
yeah, hitting people.
usual shit from him.
Hopefully he doesn't lose them a game by himself this year. I think Jay Alexander being healthy will be great for them. Like you touched on, I love bringing in Xavier McKinney. I think that'll be very good for them. They fired their defensive coordinator and brought in Jeff Hafley, who was they fired Joe Barry. He's gonna take over some of this young guys that they have. He was Boston College's head coach. I think this could help him. And then you have Matt LaFleur as head coach still. I think he's maybe a top 6, top 7 head coach. He's been very good with the Packers so far. Every time I think about him, I think he's better than I give him credit for, and I think a lot of people give him credit for. He had this team playing great last year. I think they'll make the playoffs this year. We talked about how these are the 2 best divisions. I have this as the 2nd best division. I think the defense will be good enough to get the job done again. And offensively, I think they're going to be able to run the ball very good with Josh Jacobs. And if Jordan Love can continue to get better, this offense could be very, very good.
All right, moving on to the Chicago Bears, and I'm actually probably going to end up praising them a lot more than I I end up talking shit about them because they do have some obvious really strong points. They added Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift, Kevin Byard. Ooh, I don't know why he was on the list. I think they re-signed him. Pretty sure they re-signed. Or no, they
No,
signed
they
him.
brought him in.
He got traded to the Eagles and they brought him in, right?
Mhm.
Ryan Bates, and then they of course drafted Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze in the first round. Yannick Ngakwe was a loss for them, as well as Justin Jones, Justin Fields, Rasheem Green, and Cody Whitehair. Caleb Williams is going to start his career in one of the best situations for a number 1 pick ever. I feel like between the draft talk and the pre-draft talk, we've known he was going to be a Bear for so long. We've talked about this exact thing for so many times, and not much has changed since January on this topic. But one of the better wide receiver cores with Allen, Moore, and Adunze. Although I will say, I think I've heard that there is some skepticism about how Keenan Allen has looked early. So if he ends up not being, he is getting older. There's eventually going to be a fall off for him. He was great last year, though. Had one of the best, if not the best, seasons of his career. But it's just some things that I've heard. I don't know how true that is. O line is okay, but I see it as a weakness of this team. I think if one of these players just has a bad fall off and crashes and burns, this whole thing is going to burn. I think it's definitely the biggest weakness of this team. Like I said, I think they're on the bad end of mid when it comes to their O lines. They have more of a pass rush than they did going into last year, but I don't think it's anything crazy overwhelming. Defense last year ended the year hot, one of the best defenses in the league in the last, I think 5-6 games of last season. The opposite Kirk Cousins. Um, and if they can maintain that, I think they're going to be very good as a team. I think if their defense plays how they did on the back half of last year, this whole year, they're probably going to be one of the better teams in the NFC. Crazy enough to say that, but honestly, I just don't see that happening. I look at this team, I look at the secondary, just very underwhelming after Jalen Johnson, in my opinion. I think teams are going to get a shit ton of passing yards on them. I think Sweat's going to be fantastic, but is there another option on this team that's going to go soak up a ton of more sacks for them? I don't think so. At the end of the day, I see this team as a fringe wild card team. I think they're either going to make it in as the 7 or the 6, or they're going to just miss it as the 8 or the 9. I think we see great stuff from Caleb Williams. The problem with Caleb Williams, though, is a lot of number 1 picks face pressure. Obviously, they are the number 1 pick. You're going to face a ton of pressure. The thing is, we can look at Bryce Young, for example, and be like, you know what? He had a very bad situation. Are we going to put this all on him? Caleb Williams, on the other hand, has such a good situation that if he isn't good, like if he actually sucks to start, and I don't think that's going to be the case, but let's say he does, he's going to receive all the slander. And if he doesn't have a good year as a whole, I'm not going to look at him going into next year as, oh, wow, this team's going to be pretty good. They have Caleb Williams. It's a great situation. I'll be like, yeah, it's a good situation, but we don't know what we're going to see from Caleb Williams. I think he's going to be good this year regardless. But I'm saying because he's in such a good situation, we're, as fans, going to have the unique opportunity to be able to judge him as a complete player by the end of this season, and barring some injury to anybody or him. I think at the end of this year we'll be able to definitively say whether we think he's going to be good or whether we're actually concerned about him.
Yeah, he really has no excuses, which you don't really see from the number one overall pick
Right.
very often. He's put in maybe the best position. They have a great defense. Well, their defense performed great last year. You have three phenomenal receivers, maybe if not one of the best wide receiver trios with Allen, DJ Moore, and Rome Odunze. One of the best trios you could have. There you have a solid tight end in Cole Kmet. The offensive line is the only concern I have on the offensive side. You aren't really that deep at guard looking at their depth chart on their website. Tevin Jenkins and Nate Davis. If one of them goes down, I am kind of worried they're going to have to move over one of their centers to play guard because Matt Pryor, I promise you he's not good. Not good at all. Just really an injury to the offensive line would hurt them a lot. And so that's the one issue I have on the offensive side. They should be able to run the ball better. DeAndre Swift, he struggled with the Eagles last season. Hopefully with the Bears, he can get that going. If not, Khalil Herbert, I trust him. The coaching is a concern I have. We saw them, Bears fans specifically, not be too fond of Matt Eberflus, and then in the offseason, he grows a beard, and all of a sudden,
He's the best coach of all time.
you haven't heard a single bad thing about Matt Eberflus at all.
Nothing.
He brought in Eric Washington. He was a Buffalo assistant head coach as the defensive coordinator, and Shane Waldron as the Seahawks offensive. He was the Seahawks offensive coordinator. They bring him into offensive coordinator, so he's in control of Caleb Williams and this offense. I'm not worried about this offense, though. I think Caleb Williams will get it done. I think the team is going to. I don't really see them missing the playoffs, but I feel like I've said that about a lot of teams in the NFC.
Every team can just make playoffs.
Yeah. I see them being a wild card team, if not missing it by a game. They got a good punter in Torrey Taylor, Iowa's punter, phenomenal. That's maybe their biggest offseason acquisition ahead of Caleb Williams. But defensively, Montez Sweat needs to continue to play better, continue to play how great he was. They were kind of not as deep at the defensive end position, but they were traded for Darrell Taylor from the Seahawks. That'll help them there. They're pretty. Their defense is good. I don't really have worries. I don't know. I think they're going to fight for a playoff spot, and I see you put on the hat. So their secondary is good as well with Jalen Johnson, one of the best corners. Tyreek Stevenson, who just continues to. I think he'll continue to get better. Kyler Gordon in the slot. I think defense is going to be good. Their offense should be good, but it'll.
Sounds like you think the Bears are going to be really good.
Yeah, I know. Fuck. I hate to say it. I think the Bears will be really good. It all depends on the coaching. If the coaching can get it done.
Exactly. Is the pod we immediately just start hyping the Bears? Oh my God.
I think they win the NFC. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about
Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that.
But moving
Caleb Williams
on,
struggle week 4. They bring in Tyson Bagent.
You said what?
I think Caleb Williams sucks, and they bring in Tyson Bagent to be.
That would be hilarious. Hey, his dad's an arm wrestler. Do not forget it. His dad is an arm wrestler.
Velus Jones at running back 1.
Yeah, young Velus Jones. young talent looking to progress as he hits his early 30s. But
Simone Biles' husband gets a couple picks.
I had him written down for additions, and I just deleted him. I was like, I'm not saying that.
I think he'll actually play a little bit.
Really? Is he supposed to play a little bit?
I mean,
he's
if
a DB,
Kevin
right?
Byard struggles, he's a safety. Yeah. If
If
Byard struggles a little bit.
It is a weak secondary. He could get some time. But if he does get time, that tells you what you need to know about the Bears secondary.
No, man, he's great.
Some addition by subtraction for them, too, with Eddie Jackson.
Yeah, that's the loss, yeah.
But moving on here to the reigning, defending NFC North champions, the Detroit Lions.
First time in your life you're saying that one, huh?
The Detroit Lions. Additions are Carlton Davis, DJ Reader, Marcus Davenport, Kevin Zeitler, Amik Robertson, as well as drafting the pair of cornerbacks Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw Jr. in the draft. They had their most impactful loss, in my opinion, is Jonah Jackson, who they did immediately replace with Kevin Zeitler, who's just as good as Jonah Jackson. As a veteran, though. I guess Jonah at this point is a veteran, too. But they also lose, like I said, addition by subtraction with CJ Gardner-Johnson. He talked so much shit about the Eagles and their fans for a year, and then he immediately goes back to them. The guy has absolutely no backbone. talks a lot of shit, and he used to back it up, not anymore. Josh Reynolds, Mister cost my team going to the Super Bowl, is also not on this team. He is on Denver. As much as so many Lions fans are out there being like, our receiver depth isn't good, we shouldn't have lost Reynolds. Genuinely, after that NFC title game, I don't know if I could have dealt with him being on the team anymore. Like he genuinely, like I'm not gonna say he's the only reason it happened, but he had two turnovers on downs on his wide open drops. It's really, really hard to justify that. They also lose Vitae and definitely addition by subtraction with Cam Sutton, that horrible fucking person. Anyways, an addition, in addition to their great offseason, they also re-signed and slash extended Goff, Amon Ra, Panay Sewell, Taylor Decker, all guys who are going to be staples on this team going forward. They once again, this is another thing I didn't have to delete from my notes from last year. They once again retained Ben Johnson, who's one of the best play callers and one of the best play designers in the game. He's fantastic. Every year it feels like he's going to get hired somewhere else. Hopefully, wait, did some news come in?
I can talk about it when it's my turn. I just saw you guys had Darius Fountain. That was crazy to me.
Oh, you didn't know we had Darius Fountain? I think he's going to make the roster too. He actually
That's a
might
former
play.
Colt.
He might play a little bit.
That was a former Colt. He was always hyped up in training camp, so it doesn't shock me.
He actually hasn't been that good. He was hyped up pre-training camp, and he actually hasn't been that good. But
Damn.
because the Lions don't have a ton of depth, he might make the team. But the young players last year really succeeded. All of them just need to continue to be great. Branch, Gibbs, Laporta, Jack Campbell, all those guys are going to be great. Jack Campbell is apparently going to be the guy now at middle linebacker. He's going to be in charge of everything. He's going to play every snap. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how that's going to go for him. The team has a ton of confidence in him, so do I, especially when I know how much Dan and this whole team loves Alex Anzalone. For them to just give that to Jack Campbell in year two makes me believe that he's the guy for the job and he's ready. I know I was also looking at my notes from last year. I said completely revamped secondary. They're going to be in a good spot. They honestly were in a decent spot. Cam Sutton decided to just, I don't know. I'm done talking about Cam Sutton, but it ended up where we had Kendall Vidlor as our cornerback too in the NFC title game, and he let a ball go off his helmet and turn it into a touchdown. So, he's still on the roster though, but regardless, they do have their secondary of Carlton Davis, who was a cornerback one last season on the Bucks. He guarded a lot of wide receiver ones, as we talked about in the South episode last week. Terrion Arnold is going to be great. He's not hurt. Brian Branch going to continue to be great like he was last year, and Kirby Joseph was phenomenal. They are pretty deep in the secondary too. Like I said, Ennis Rayshaw Jr. they drafted in the second round. He's supposed to be pretty good. He had a solid camp before getting injured, but I think he's going to be fine. Ife Melifonwu had a great end to the year last year. He hopes to continue to be good. He's might play corner this year. He played safety last year. He sucked at corner, went to safety, was fantastic. But because of depth issues, it looks like he might be going back to corner. So I don't know how that's going to work. But regardless, this is a very deep secondary. O-line remains the best unit in the NFL. That's the one unit of this team where I can confidently say that it is better than every other team at that position. I can confidently say that with O-line. And their weapons on offense are all great except for wide receiver 3. Like I said, their biggest weakness is that wide receiver depth. But Gibbs and Laporta with Amon-Ra and JMO is solid. Gibbs might get a lot of slot work this year. They teased it a lot last year. We did see it. We didn't see a ton of it. And Laporta was fantastic last year, of course. And JMO is having a great camp, allegedly, and the Lions have a lot of high expectations. I'm going to choose to just believe what I hear and believe what I want to hear. He's had some great days where he's looked like the best receiver in the world. He's had some horrible days where he looks like a bust. You don't know what you're going to see. One thing I will say is he is going to have the most opportunity he's had in his career, and opportunity leads to success if you're a good enough player. So hopefully we see that from him. Top to bottom, in my opinion, it's one of the best 3 rosters in the league. Similar how you were saying with the top 4 edge rushers, you really can't argue anybody outside of those top 4. I don't think you can argue outside of the Chiefs, the Niners, and the Lions as the top 3 rosters on paper. I just don't see how you could. If the young players in the secondary like Arnold and Rakestraw can be good, I honestly think this defense can turn into something that for the past couple of years we're like, wow, if the Lions actually had a good pass defense, they might be the best team in the league. They might win a Super Bowl. If those two can be good, I think that definitely can be the case. They add DJ Reader to one of the best run defenses in football. him and Ali McNeil are going to be a fantastic pairing. They're both really, really good on run defense. DJ Reader is a great pass rusher too. Of course, you have Hutchinson on the D line as well. I I think the Lions can win the Super Bowl. I really do. I'm not gonna come out here and jinx them and say I think they're going to win the Super Bowl, but to an extent, I do think they're going to win the Super Bowl. So, I'm super high on the Lions to no to no shock there. And I'm realizing I didn't do my division awards yet, so I'm going to do those now. Still Jameer
Yeah,
Gibbs for offensive rookie of the year.
along with the Bears, the Lions, these are two of the teams I think had two of the best off seasons in the entire NFL. Oh, and before I got into this, I didn't want to stop you. Jamar Chase is expected to play in the opening game. Just so it was just announced by Zach Taylor.
Would you say he's sitting in?
He's holding in.
Holding
But it was announced by Zach Taylor that he will be ready to go, and Kyron Williams will be the Rams punt returner. So strange, but back to the Lions, them and the Bears. I think these two teams had some of the best offseason in the NFL. They bring in two great guys for the defensive line and Davenport and DJ Reader. They're able to replace their offensive line and bring in Kevin Zeitler. I think that's a big move to replace Jonah Jackson. The defensive line, like I touched on, that was great. And I had wrote down talking about the secondary. Last year we talked about how they revamped the secondary. They did it again. This time they decided to revamp it even more and try to make even more moves for it. And I think that was very good. Terrion Arnold, I think he'll be great.
If this fails, I can't imagine what they're going to do next year.
They might just like cut
killing their old players.
Yeah. Just cutting every single one. You got great safeties with Branch and Joseph. Now you hopefully have a great cornerback trio with Arnold Robertson and Carlton Davis. Then you have Ennis Rakestraw as well. I think I saw Emmanuel Mosley wasn't going on the season-ending IR, that he could come back late in the season. Is that true?
I don't know. I've given up on Emmanuel Mosley. I think he has. I feel just horrible for him, dude. He just has the worst luck in the world, genuinely.
Yeah.
He tears his ACL. He comes back first game, tears his other ACL, comes back
somehow worse than J.K. Dobbins. I think it was his pec, wasn't it?
It was pec, yes. Which is an injury that if you do it early in the season, you can't come back. We saw it with Mr. I Hate Philly that plays for the Eagles. He did it last year. So I guess it's possible, but yeah, him and J.K. Dobbins. At least J.K. Dobbins gets to play for a game though, and then he gets hurt.
Get a little bit of hype and then get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Defensively, they were able to get some additions on the D line. I like that. If Jack Campbell can take the step forward, like you said, that could be huge for him. And I actually trust their secondary now with the moves that they made. Offensively, they really didn't have too much change. Big move that they just brought in Tim Patrick, absolute colossal move. This might be the best wide receiver trio in history.
What I'm saying.
No. Jameson Williams needs to take the step forward this year for this offense to take the step forward. In my opinion, they still have Ben Johnson. I don't think they will not get worse than what they were last year. They can only get better, and I think Jameson Williams will be the step to get better. Hopefully, Laporta can get healthy and continue to his rookie season success. You have Hendon Hooker as your QB2 now, so good for him. Hopefully, you don't have to see him on the field because Jared Goff stays healthy and is able to play great. They still have the running back duo with Montgomery and Gibbs. I think it'll be a little bit more Gibbs this year than it was last year, which can only be good. I think Montgomery will still be a big touchdown and close quarters guy for the 3rd and 1s. But really, they have no holes overall. If the secondary can stay healthy and strong, this is a team you do not want to play.
Yeah, I completely agree, obviously. But we can move on here to
who's winning the kicker battle though?
It's gonna be Jake Bates.
Oh, it is Jake Bates? Okay. Yeah, so that's the guy from the USFL or whatever?
It is, yes. He was on the Michigan
Panthers.
Marauders? No, Marauders is Pittsburgh, I think.
Yeah, it's the Panthers.
Yeah. But yeah, no, he's going. Yeah, I think he's going to win it. But he is also
it had to have been announced.
He's a wild card. He had the game winner in the Chiefs game. I think he won it then. And he hit like a 56-yarder or something, and I think he's I would assume he's won it, but
I'll look it up.
That would be shocking. Especially with Badgley having his season-ending injury. So we do not have the Honey Badger, sadly. But moving on to the division standings here, I of course have the reigning defending NFC North champs doing it once again and going back to back. I then have a very close race for second here with the Packers and the Bears. But inevitably, I just couldn't stomach putting the Bears at 2, and I had to put the Packers at 2. So I got Packers at 2, Bears at 3. I could easily see those switching now, and the Vikings had an easy 4. 1 and 4 were simple for me here, but 2 and 3 I think is a bit.
Yeah, I realize I didn't do that either. But
Imagine me predicting it. The Lions to lose the division.
yeah,
Crazy.
I had the Lions at 1 and the Vikings at 4. I think those are two easy ones. I agree with you. Can flip the Packers and the Bears. I'm going to put the Packers at 2 just because we've seen them do it before under this coaching staff. I trust Matt LaFleur more than I do Matt
Matt LeBlanc,
Eberflus.
is that what you were about to say?
No, I said Matt LaFleur. I kind of was about to combine Eberflus and LaFleur.
Oh, I thought you were about to say Matt LeBlanc. I was like, no way.
LaFlus. No, I trust the Packers coaching staff more. I think Jordan Love will continue to get better. And I think Caleb Williams, although he's kind of like a generational talent, what they say, I think he will still have the rookie issues at some points. Maybe struggle late in the games and give Bears fans some PTSD of some game-winning drives that are choked with Justin Fields. But I still think the Bears are going to be good and fighting for a playoff spot, if not in the playoffs.
They weren't chokes because no one actually believed they were ever going to work out for them. But
Yeah.
Offensive rookie of the year, Caleb Williams. I mean, what do you ever on my dude say?
I just didn't know if you're going to explain that a little bit more.
I mean,
Talk
what do you
about
want me
how
to say?
great he is.
See, that's what I was avoiding doing. Here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna give him the same treatment I gave to Sean and the same treatment I gave fucking Kirk Cousins. You better be good, because if you're not, it's on you. That's it.
I agree with that completely. I have him as my offensive rookie of the year. He has the weapons, the receivers, the tight end, a decent enough offensive line that he should be able to get it done. And maybe Swift isn't good. I think he could be a fraud, but there really still is no excuse.
Yeah, for me, there's gonna be nothing but Honolulu Blue after this on the graphics. So give me
That's
Terry
crazy.
Arnold at DPOY.
That's crazy.
I mean, we'll see where you want to disagree with me, but I think all these are valid picks. I didn't do it last year. I wanted to, but I didn't do it. But yeah, I think Terry Arnold's going to be in a good spot. I don't think he's going to have to be cornerback 1, although he was a highly drafted corner. He was very possibly the best cornerback in the draft, maybe 2, depending on Quinyon Mitchell and how he works out in Philly. But regardless, I think he's going to be in a good spot to be at a cornerback 2 and guard wide receiver 2s. And he's had a great, outside of getting hurt, he had a great start to his year. So I think he's going to be the best defensive rookie in this division.
I have Dallas Turner as my DROY. I think he's in a great position with the Vikings to absolutely dominate off the edge. He's going to be on the field a lot. He's going to be their main defensive pass rushing weapon. I think he's going to have a kind of a big rookie season. I think he'll fight for DROY in the NFL. I think he'll fall just short of that, but I think that's my defensive rookie of the year for this division.
All right, moving on to OPOY, I have the Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's a top 4 or 5 receiver in this league. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm gonna have to move some things around, aren't I? You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna stick to my guns. Fuck Justin Jefferson. I'm keeping him on right. Oh boy. I held back last year and tried to be, keep it PC, but I'm not keeping it PC no more. I'm putting him on right. Oh boy.
PC.
I'm trying to go with what the public wants. I'm not rocking with Jefferson. I'll give a reason for it too. I just think Amon-Ra is going to be able to dominate as he has been. We don't know what the situation with Jefferson at quarterback is going to be, although he had good stats with shitty quarterbacks last year. Jefferson did a lot, and it's not even funny. A lot of his yards on last year without Kirk were against the Lions. Like, I think he had like 300 receiving yards against the Lions at the end of the year. I do think Jefferson is a better receiver than Amon-Ra. I'm not saying that, but if we're projecting who's going to have better stats this year, I'm going to go out there and say Amon-Ra has a better statistical season than Jefferson. And I would draft him ahead of Jefferson in fantasy too.
Interesting. I'm just shocked that your MVP is probably Jared Goff. That's crazy. For OPOY for me, I have
And that's
Jordan
not for
Love.
the division too, it's for the league. So get used to it. Get used to seeing that next to each other.
Okay. For OPOY, I have Jordan Love. He's maybe sneakily one of the best, if not the best quarterback
Are you
in
about to
this
disrespect
division.
every line right now? Are you about to not pick a single line?
I was looking at it, maybe, honestly. That's crazy.
That's wild.
That's crazy.
I no longer feel bad about my pick because that's crazy.
That's crazy. I mean, one's going to have a lot of Honolulu Blue, one maybe doesn't. But I have Jordan Love at OPOY. I think he's due for a big season. He has maybe the best run game he's had. He's got solid weapons, an okay O line. I think he'll do better than what he did last year, and he looked great last year. So I have Jordan Love as my OPOY.
Yeah, I even though I do stand on business with the Amon-Ra over Jefferson because I do think he's gonna have a better statistical season, I no longer feel bad because Jordan Love over Goff is a fucking horrendous take. That's a horrendous take, club. That's bad.
Maybe I have Goff at MVP.
Jordan Love over every single Lion. Come on, bro.
Maybe I have Goff at MVP. Who knows?
I'm going to assume you have Jefferson, but yeah, I'm shook. I'm gonna go with DPOY. I'm going with Hutch. I mean, I'm just gonna continue. If you're gonna completely disrespect the Lions, I'm gonna completely disrespect the rest of the division. So, but honestly, I can. Can you give a reason for Love over Goff? Like, you genuinely think he's better than Goff?
I generally kind of forgot about Goff. I kind of have them on the same level though in terms of OPOY, and maybe just to piss you off, I'll go Jordan Love.
That's fine. Give me Hutch and DPOY. He's a pressure machine. I think it's going to come to fruition this year. DJ Reader, Marcus Davenport, Aleem's going to have a full season. He's going to have a lot more help on that D line. Granted, none of those guys are his level, but still, I think just any sort of help, especially if Davenport can say, "Oh, he's going to help him." Give me Hutch. This was the only one, or I guess whatever. I have Hutch.
Yeah, this one I have three players that I kind of was deciding between: Montez Sweat, Jalen Johnson, and Aiden Hutchinson. Who do you think I went with? Who do you think I went with?
Jalen Johnson.
No, I went with Montez Sweat.
My God, Blub. My God.
I'm sorry.
Horrendous.
We saw last year the Bears defense. We saw last year the Bears defense was struggling a lot. Maybe not a lot, but they were struggling. They brought in Montez Sweat, and they kind of turned it around. They had one of the better defenses in the second half. They were great against the run. I think Montez Sweat was a great part of that. I think he's going to continue his success with the Bears, and I have him as the DPOY.
Do you have like some sort of like obsession with 8-week stretches? Like if a player is good for like half the year?
I mean, he was great with the Commanders. What are you talking about?
Better than Hutch is crazy. So I'm assuming I would have been Jalen Johnson. I would have been cool with. I think that is an argue. Like I think you could say Jalen Johnson.
I kind of consider them like I do with Love and Goff as like 1A, 1B there.
MVP. I have Jared Goff. It's not a question here. Maybe if Jefferson had a better quarterback situation, I would pick him. It maybe if your boy Kirk was there, if Golden Boy Kirk was there, I would have picked him too. But somebody's got to call it how it is here. The Lions easily on paper have the best roster in this division. They are the best at multiple, I'm not going to say all, but multiple groups. I think they have the best quarterback position. I think they have the best offensive line. I think they have the best running backs. I think they have the best, arguably the best D line. And then after that, you can give to other teams. But honestly, I don't even know what to say. I'm so shook. You took Sweat over Hutchinson, and who did you? Jordan Love over Goff. I feel like are you fucking with me? Like,
well, at MVP, I have Jared Goff. So
okay, so you're disrespecting Jefferson too, then?
Yeah, I am disrespecting. I mean, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm disrespecting him. I think just the position that Jefferson's in, he doesn't really have the quarterback for it. If he gets hurt, I don't see him really having the need to push out and play through the injury. So I have Jared Goff at MVP. Based on how you
questioned it when you mentioned it earlier, I'm convinced you didn't have Goff and you changed it. I'm convinced.
No, I had Goff. I kind of just wanted to see how pissed you would get.
Honestly, I'm still really pissed about this one.
I was considering putting Love at MVP and Goff at OPOY.
Are you serious?
Them interchangeable, but I have Goff at MVP. I think he plays for the best team in the division. I also almost put Gibbs at OPOY, but I went with Goff. Or I went with Love. But yeah, I have Goff at MVP for all the reasons you listed. He has the best O-line. There's no reason for him to not be good. If he sucks again, I think he might just be a one-hit wonder every couple of years, though.
If who sucks again?
No, like if Goff were to be bad.
Yeah, but when was he a one-hit wonder?
Well, I mean, with the Rams, he had the great season, brought him to the Super Bowl, struggled.
He was
remakes himself, goes to Lions, has a great season. Or am I just fucking with you?
I personally, even if he never went to the Lions, I don't think calling him a one-hit wonder makes sense.
I saw people calling him a Hall of Famer. That's a crazy take. He's not a Hall of Fame. Why are you grinning?
I'd have to look at the stats, but I know for a fact, similar to Matt Stafford, he is on pace to have fantastic stats. There is a very good chance that he finishes.
That's going to be a ton of quarterbacks like that, though, in the future.
That's cool. A lot of those guys didn't make a Super Bowl, and a lot of those guys aren't about to
making a Super Bowl. Isn't that as big of an accomplishment as winning a Super Bowl?
We'll check in February when he has the ring.
Okay, we'll see
the stats. But I'm convinced you didn't have him at MVP. I'm convinced
I did
after that egregious sweat over Hutchinson's pick. But do you think it's projecting this year?
Better than Hutchinson.
Or if you're ranking the edge rushers, you're putting Sweat over Hutch.
I'm putting Sweat over Hutch.
All right. We're gonna have to agree to disagree. I think that's a Michigan State bias. But
no, it's just I think Sweat's better than Hutch.
You know what? Hold on. Let me recalibrate. I'm not putting Lamar at MVP anymore because he went to OPOY because he went to Louisville. So,
no, that's not the reason at all.
Gonna be.
But I've never been high on Hutch. I mean, maybe it is Michigan bias, but I don't think that's it.
Yeah, it's not like he was like, what was he, second in pressures to Max Crosby? Playing with him and
Pressure Merchant, man.
Him and Max Crosby had no help.
Pressure Merchant.
If you're gonna give Crosby the hype, I feel like I don't know. I don't think you can argue Hutch outside of the top 6, maybe. I think he's right around that 6th range.
I mean, looking at sacks, I see Montez Sweat had more sacks.
It's cool. I don't think he's better. I think Hutch is a better run defender.
We'll have to revisit this.
We will
in our next top 5.
Yeah, we will. We did okay, but we neither of us had Hutch or Sweat in our top 5. I was about to say we did edge, like we had this conversation like 2 weeks ago, but we didn't. We only went to 5, so we had the 5 guys that we both had above both of them.
Well, there was 4 guys. Who was the 5th one?
It was Parsons, Watt, Garrett, Bosa, Crosby.
Bosa,
yeah.
Although I don't know if I put Bosa in my top 5 or not.
You 1,000% did not put Montez Sweat over Bosa.
I did. I said 4 or 5 interchangeable as well.
But even though Zach's not here, I'm still gonna stand on what I believe in. I'm not gonna let this false Bears hope cloud anything. Lions Super Bowl bound, reigning and defending. But NFC North champs, not Super Bowl. But you got anything else?
Any news come through in the West? Browns keep 4 QBs.
I haven't seen my phone in like 3 hours, dude. So I don't know.
Tim Patrick is a Lion. Elijah Mitchell season-ending injury. He'll be
maybe they'll bring in Trey Sermon.
Robbie Chosen was waived. Odell Beckham Jr. will be on the pup list to start the season.
I wonder if he'll get chosen.
Kadarius Toney waived. Desmond Ridder was waived from the Cardinals. Jelani Woods season-ending injury. Noah Brown was released by the Texans.
That was who I was thinking of as a receiver who they should pick up. It was Noah Brown. That's what I was thinking of.
That could be a good signing. Tyler Higbee's on the
We already have the GOAT Tim Patrick. There's no Woods.
Noah Brown, Tim Patrick, top 2.
Oh. You have to move your awards
that's the waiver wire. That's a waiver wire dream right there.
It is, bro. You're going to have to move around your OPOY if we get Tim Patrick and Noah Brown, bro. Noah Brown, OPOY, Tim Patrick.
No, I'll just split it MVP. Co-MVPs.
Dual MVP. And then still keep Love at OPOY and disrespect Goff like you were going to.
Didn't disrespect Goff. I put him at MVP.
All right. That is about it for this episode of the Engage 8 podcast. That is now it for our division previews for the 2024-2025 NFL season. We will be back next week to preview everybody on... Do you have something to say?
When you finish that, I was going to say one more thing.
Go ahead.
I was going to say we'll also be back next week to review week 1 of college football.
Right, yes. Thank God you said that. I would have forgotten that. But yes, we will review week 1 of college football as well as talk about what we expect for week 1, and then we'll be back for our second episode that week because we're back to 2 a weeks now, recapping week 1 of the NFL season as well as talking about any headlines and all that good stuff. So thank you for watching and listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and we will see everybody in the next one.